All right, so very excited today to be joined by Greg Golden from Harvard University, Alan Carnes from Vanderbilt University, Michael Vaughn from Yale University, and Dave Straight from the University of Virginia. I'll give all of our panelists a moment to introduce themselves, just roll and what anything that you want to give about your background, and then we'll give each panelist the opportunity to share about a specific AI initiative that they're working on. And there'll be plenty of times for folks to ask questions as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat throughout, or we'll also be opening it up to all for questions about the last 30 minutes of today's session. But without further ado, Greg, would you mind kicking us off with intros?
Oh, Deirdre, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Greg Golden. As Deirdre mentioned, I work at Harvard University IT. I am the Service Desk AI team lead. So part of my responsibility is seeing how the Service Desk, which does our front-end support for alumni, faculty, staff, and students at the university, how we can help utilize AI to help improve our processes. So today I'll be talking about how we're leveraging, in specific, IBM Watson's Watson X AI, and how we're taking advantage of that to help automate our support processes in ServiceNow, to speed up MTTR, mean time to resolve on tickets, and to help users get answers to their questions in a faster manner than what our normal processes look like without the use of AI. So excited to meet everyone.
All right, and apologies, I did actually not mention one more panelist that we have, Ahem Bosher from Cornell University. Ahem, if you want to be the next one to introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you so much. This is Ahem Bosher from Cornell University. I'm the Assistant AI Program Director at Cornell. I lead our everything in AI initiatives. We're talking about AI literacy, AI services, and AI innovation lab that I would be happy to share what we're building with. Happy to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. And then Alan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alan Carnes from Vanderbilt University. I'm the principal cloud architect here. And for the last year, I've been working on an internal open source application we built for chatting with generative AI endpoints.
Thank you. And Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Vaughn. I'm from Yale University. I'm the Associate Director for AI Platform Services and for Digital Accessibility. And I'll be talking a little bit about a platform we're similarly building called Clarity. It's based on a product. We worked with a vendor to bring generative AI capabilities to the whole campus.
Thank you. And Dave.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all again. Dave Straight. I'm the AVP for Support Services and Learning Technologies, and also the AI Program Manager in our central IT organization, ITS. And I want to share with you today a pilot that we did for M365 Copilot and the results of that pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alan.
I think I'd introduce myself.
Sorry, we did you. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. It's a Monday, everyone. My apologies. All right. So let's get started without further ado for a deeper dive on all these exciting sounding initiatives. I'll go in the same order. Greg, would you mind kicking us off again?
Yeah, no problem. What I'll do is I do have a couple slides, so I can go ahead and share my screen. I'll go through. Here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so everyone should be able to see my presentation now. So yeah, as I talked about earlier, so I'll be giving a quick overview rundown of what the Service Desk of Harvard University IT is taking advantage of using Watson's IBM. So a couple of the use cases that we wanted to use AI for, one was, of course, simplify and streamline email support. Another one is chat support automation. And then the third one is incident categorizations in ServiceNow. So the goal was to introduce automation for simple, repeatable functions and to support users as quickly as possible, offering chat and faster responses for common questions than the normal timeline for getting tickets in. So what we've set up here is we have instituted IBM Watson to read through new tickets that come into the service desk and to help us categorize those tickets in ServiceNow. So for those that work in ServiceNow, again, you have all those sorts of fields on that incident form. You have these like the service field, the category, assignment group, urgency, priority, customer name. And then of course you have that short description and also the full description, which is where the email is ingested to. So when I refer to categorizations, what I'm referring to here is using IBM Watson to ingest in those incoming new tickets and help the queue manager with their job and filling out those specific fields that a technician would fill out. For example, if I was filling out like a new ticket about the Wi-Fi not working, for example, I would put in like the Wi-Fi service, and then the category could be like or troubleshooting or Wi-Fi down. So instead of the technician filling in those fields, we set up Watson IBM to say, hey, this ticket is an issue with the internet. And we're going to go ahead and fill in those fields in ServiceNow instead of waiting for the queue manager or the technician to do it. So what you can see in front of you here is the simple 4-step process for how sort of it works. So again, that ticket is submitted. For us, we do email support, so a user can email that ServiceNow email, which generates that ticket, or they can submit a ticket directly in the portal. At that point, watsonx ingests that ticket. So it reads through the subject line of that email and the body of that email, and it looks through and says, hey, what is this ticket? And it does that based on training data that we fed Watson of what we want Watson to look for tickets. So we would give it, say, hey, look for a ticket with issues with internet, for example, and categorize it. Then what it does is it actually selects a classification. So it's, hey, I give it an 80% that this ticket is a Wi-Fi internet ticket. And then what Watson will do is it will fill in those fields in ServiceNow. So, and as it looks here, as you can see, basically, when that ingesting occurs and it's spit back out into ServiceNow, we can tell Watson what fields we want it to fill out in ServiceNow based upon what the learning data is. So for example, here, we've done 1Password. We support 1Password for a lot of affiliates. We've plugged in the service, the category, and the assignment group for what the fields we want to fill out in ServiceNow. After that training is done and that ingestion takes place, again, those actual fields get filled out in the ticket. And we could say we want to keep it the service desk, for example. So we have that service and category, and then the Watson actually updates the status of that ticket to unassigned as well. Now, one big jump off of that that we were also taking advantage of is adding that 5th step. So once we've had, those fields filled out, we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if, if I couldn't get connected to the Wi-Fi and in 10 minutes or less, I got a response from the IT team saying, hey, have you tried this, this, or this? So instead of waiting for a queue manager to assign out to a technician, which, can take overnight if it's late in the day, or a few hours, depending on the backup or how busy it is, we've set it up now so that we can have replies automatically sent out to the user with those steps to get it resolved. And we do that using the ServiceNow quick messages. So if you haven't heard of those, basically, these are templated emails for a lot of common questions technicians will send out to users. So instead of waiting for that time frame to happen, we've set up Watson to automatically send out that templated email within 10 minutes. So you can use just submit that Wi-Fi ticket, it's read through Watson, and that reply is sent out in that 10-minute point. So again, it speeds up the MTTR, and makes it a lot faster for users to get answers to their questions. And also, we've even implemented an option for the user to resolve it over email if it's resolved their issue. So instead of waiting for a technician to resolve it, if it answers your question, you can automatically close that ticket right in the email in 2 clicks. And it's a really big help for our technicians to get sort of a lot of those common low-hanging fruit questions solved in a lot faster time. And that's what produces our zero-touch resolution, which is really great. So again, what we've done is we've set up basically a wraparound text for that automated email. What we basically do is you decide whatever quick message that you want to send. You tell Watson, hey, I want to send this Wi-Fi quick message. When Watson sends that, it adds this wraparound text saying, hey, if this resolves your issue, you can do it right over email. You can also log into our IT help portal and resolve it. And if you don't resolve it, of course, the ticket will still stay in ServiceNow, and it will still get assigned to a technician if it's not resolved. So a technician can always follow up if they have any other questions. Which again still allows for that support if for whatever reason they have a follow-up question or it's not resolved fully. This wraparound email still gives that availability to do so. So I know we have a lot of presentations, so I don't want to take much of your time. I'm happy to answer any questions on the details, the inner workings of how it works. So thank you, everyone. And this picture of my dog, Enzo. So again, happy to answer any questions now or later. So thank you.
And we do have one question in the chat for you, Greg. Did you calculate ROI?
So we have worked on ROI. I've been in tandem with my director. I don't have a specific number on the ROI of that. But what I do know is just looking through the amount of tickets that we receive resolved now, we're still sort of rolling out the process to more of the services we cover. But right now, we usually see about 30 or 40 tickets as of now that are resolved by the user through those email responses. So it's already becoming a big help as we sort of roll out the service to more of the services the service desk supports with more of those quick messages. We expect that number to rise.
Thank you. And a lot of people love how you ended the presentation with your dog, and I agree. I'm right there with them. Very cute. All right, Ahem, do you want to go up next?
Actually, yeah, sure. I'm just trying to pull up a picture of my puppy to make sure I end the presentation with that. So, but I think I could multitask here for a second. But yeah, so I wanted to share today more of kind of at an AI program level. It's been really busy at Cornell. I do building the AI program for both Weill Cornell Medicine and Ithaca Cornell, which are there is a lot of intake, as you could imagine, a lot of emails. But I did break down kind of the intake, and this is a little bit. Let me make sure I just share the right screen here. So you can see about 50% of the intake that comes is people asking just to access AI that they can trust that they can put non-public information. I think as we rolled out AI platforms around campuses, we told everybody don't use it with non-public information, and that just slowed down AI adoption quite a lot. And I think it's because it's hard, especially if you tell them you can use it with level 2 data or level 1 data or level, and people don't know what these levels are. People who created the levels are not sure that they have it covered correctly, and it just pushed everybody back to not adopt AI. So I think as you see, 50% of the requests are just like, I want to use AI, but I want to use it with private data. So that can be addressed with a private platform. I think a few other presenters are going to talk about their version of that. We at Cornell, we adopted an open source framework, LibreChat, which has been picking up momentum with other institutions. We collaborate on it, and I can demo it in a second. But then really, we have about 26% of the intake is about people requesting to solve a problem with AI, and that's just what we just saw, for example, using AI for categorizing ServiceNow requests. There is a lot of applications that could benefit from AI, but cannot be solved with just a access with a text box to AI. So that's where I created the AI Innovation Lab, where we prioritize these requests, and I work with students, graduate students, PhD students. They join the AI Innovation Lab where we could solve problems. We have a similar problem with categorizing requests. We have a problem to solve with the advising platform. So we're going to use AI to help the advisors get more insights about the students that they're talking to, also trying to mine maybe discover some patterns of struggles for students. We also have, it's a wide variety of different projects, as you can all imagine, even travel reimbursement office, which is backed up with so many travel reimbursement reports, where we're going to use AI and monthly model, scan receipts, look at the account policies, make sure that everything is good. And then there are a lot of things that come as vended application, where people just want to use maybe Zoom AI, other AI, anything for meetings, or a lot of different specific applications as well, where we help them vet the solution, maybe evaluate the promises. A lot of these AI companies today make promises about we're going to answer all questions about users, but really they don't tell you that if your data knowledge base is big, it's first searching for relevant information before the AI is involved. So you're going to get an answer, but it's just searching Google. You're not going to get the complete answer. You're going to get probably a correct answer, but not necessarily a complete answer. So that's where I feel the biggest danger of adopting AI right now is trying to make sure users understand the limitations of AI as well. And then we have other categories here. Actually, in this image, I can't remember what they are, but these are the bulk of the requests. For we call it Sandbox AI. This is your just private AI, so you could kind of ask different models, tell me about Harvard Academy. And this is what you would expect. You will get answers from different models. Of course, it is private, so you could use it with all different sorts of data. We're trying to offer this as a HIPAA compliant data as well. Alongside with this, we're going to offer a self-service API provisioning, so researchers could use Safe AI for their research. Just want to show this as a feature that we're rolling out, which is super exciting, where you could upload a file and just ask AI, I don't know, give me helpful visualizations. AI will write some code, execute the code, understand what's in the data, and then provide you with these beautiful visualizations about the data. Even though I'm not familiar with this data, I start to understand what's going on. I can ask for more visualizations, and this will give me even more visualization. And it's able to execute code and generate these on the fly. So that's super, super cool for data analytics. Just wanted to show this quick. We are going to hopefully publish this for all the higher ed community. This is a prototype, but we're working on a shared prompt library. So you could add prompts for your classrooms, maybe for your contract analysis office, maybe alumni affairs, and you could go ahead and copy the prompt and use it. And you could also submit the prompt. We're going to review the prompt and publish it for everybody. You will be able to filter per tags. So we're excited. I think this has two benefits. One is you could actually copy the prompt, but another implicit benefit is you could get inspired about what you could use AI for. So even if you're not really copying the prompt, you will still be able to see what other people are using it for, and you could get inspiration. I wanted to share that we have also, I'm gonna put this in the chat. We have another group we meet monthly, which is the AI Innovation Accelerator, where we talk about all different things AI as well. So we meet once a month, and it's more targeted toward the builders, so more systems and applications. But I wanted to share that as well. Oh, I didn't multitask very well, but I'm going to just end it with the picture of my puppy. So I'm going to share my screen again really quickly here. Sorry. And this is Mitch.
Oh,
And
very
she's a
cute.
mini Aussie Doodle. She will be very happy to say hi to everybody in this call, but she will also assist me to answer any questions.
Oh, nice. I see David Anderson has picked up a puppy as well.
This is Sorrel, just back from her walk, so she's happy to say hello.
Awesome. All right, Alan, how about we go with you next?
Sounds good. Let me figure out. There we go. Okay. Can you all see? I'm just going to work off one slide that I created for a poster session. It kind of captures what I would have put in the PowerPoint, and then I can give a quick demo of kind of what we're doing here at Vanderbilt. I think like everybody else, about a year ago, we tried to figure out how we were going to tackle the problem of offering generative AI access at scale. I have historically worked within VUIT here at Vanderbilt. I have a colleague that I know well over in the engineering school who was appointed as the senior advisor to the chancellor on generative AI. And he reached out and asked if I wanted to collaborate on how we might provide access to university as a whole. And so I think initially, like everybody on the call, we were super worried about the costs and how the costs would scale when you start talking about providing it to thousands of people. We were worried about being locked into one vendor in a platform and in a field that's just so dynamic and changing all the time. And then integrations with our institutional data and scalability governance, kind of all of those things. We initially reached out to OpenAI, to Microsoft about licensing across the university. The cost, again, was super prohibitive. And so we just kind of sat down and thought, well, what if we tried this internally? What if we tried to build it ourselves? And so we started with an open source kind of platform, just a chat UI. And then we kind of took that and made it our own, and then released it open source as well. And part of that goal is to like everybody else on here, we would love to build a community around, university-centric generative AI, and how we can all help each other kind of move toward common goals of providing equitable access to everybody that needs it and wants it. And currently we're averaging about $3 per user per month. That is about $2 million in annual savings with our current user workload. That will grow. We're about to announce that the entire campus has access to it. So instead of calculating that figure based on 3,000 to 4,000 people, well, now we're going to offer access to 17,000 people. And that's being able to, over the last 9 months, we've captured those costs. And we've seen over the last 11 months, since January 1, that as we've added users to the platform, as we've scaled, that $3 per month per user is held steady. And so we feel comfortable at this point going ahead and turning opening the gate up and letting everybody in to see what that looks like and how it grows over time. We do not currently limit anybody's access. So it is non-rate limited. So if you have access and you start prompting, we do not stop you from doing anything. We do monitor it on the back end. And if there's an extremely high usage level by an individual user or a group of users, somebody will reach out and try and see what the use case was, what we're working on. And mostly that's just for us to see how it's being used, so that we can make some decisions going forward about, do we rate limit? Do we try and capture, costs for chargeback at some point in specific instances? We do have a couple of the features that we built into it. We have API access that we developed for the researchers. And the big reason with that was mostly around the compliance framework. We had so many researchers reaching out about, hey, we want to do this. How do we do it in a safe and secure manner? And so trying to do that across all the different platforms that were available was prohibitive, just from a compliance documentation standpoint, having each individual researcher go through that compliance process to make sure that they were secure. So by providing that through one central platform and documenting it universally, people kind of have that turnkey solution to access any of the endpoints that we provide within the application in a secure and safe manner. We do access everything through our OpenAI, our Azure OpenAI endpoints, so that's covered under our campus agreement. And then the other models we offer access to are through the Bedrock endpoints within Amazon AWS. And then all of the data stays within our Amazon AWS account. We do have backend API access, not only to the application itself, but we can call out from the application to other APIs. And we don't expose, oh, here's the artifacts. Sorry, this is the new feature we just added a couple of weeks back. So we do have the ability to generate code and then display that code within the application itself. And in general, it looks like a standard kind of web chat application. We do have, if you click on the drop down up here, currently I'm just displaying GPT-4, 4.0 Mini, Claude, and then Haiku. If I wanted to expand that, in the settings menu, I could add any of these models: GPT-4 Turbo, 3.5, Claude, Mistral, Opus. I can turn artifacts on and off. We have smart focus messages. The plugin selector is how you can turn RAG on or off, or access code interpreter. And then the prompt highlighter is just the ability to work with a specific section of a long response if you wanted to reprompt against that section instead of the whole thing. And then we've got a file manager, so you can, if you've uploaded a file once, you can pull it back in and work with it again without having to re-upload that data again. I'm trying to think here. This is a pretty cool feature I was just talking about. We added it last week. This is not exposed to the entire campus. You have to be in a specific group to have access to this, but I added access. You have the ability to add access to an external API that you define under the advanced section. And if I go in, there it is, allow the assistant to use API capabilities. And then I can go through and add an external API by URL, add parameters, headers, and then what kind of format I expect that response to be in. And you can see here, I'm going to expose an API key, but it's a public API. I'm not too worried about it. And we'll mask that when we go to production. But you can see I'm going in and we're saying generate a call to this API based on this start date, based on this end date. Here's the key. And it was just based off a query of, I want to know all near Earth orbit objects for November of 2024. And so it creates that query, goes out, grabs the data, and then it returns it. Oh, sorry, that was the failed one. It returns it down here. There's 91 total objects, potentially hazard. So it's just a nice, cool feature now where it gives us the ability to pull in data from any resource that has an API. And so we can act on any resource that has an API as well. So, and that's kind of it. It's open source. It's available to anybody to download. You can find it at, I think it's Amplify, GenAI. Let's see, yeah, genai.org. We'd love to have more people take it up. We'd love to collaboratively work with anybody that's interested as well. And I will also show you a picture of my dogs post daylight savings.
Very nice. And there are a couple questions that came into chat for you, Alan, as far as did you build it completely with university faculty, or did you bring in an external software engineering company?
This was completely internal. So we had Dr. White is a professor in the computer science department, and myself. We were the initial two that built it. We brought on a research engineer that was had originally been doing research for him. We added Max to the team, and then in February we brought on a full-time engineer as well that had graduated from the master's program here at Vanderbilt. So we really probably have I would say 2.5 full-time people writing code, developing the application. And then Dr. White and myself do a lot of the administrative, a lot of the presentations around at different places and meeting with different schools, trying to collaborate and move forward with the application.
And thank you. And then we also have, does Amplify support building private GPTs?
Yeah, it sure does. So that assistant that I showed you that was calling the API endpoint, that same assistant framework supports RAG. It supports any set of custom instructions. And then we have some plugins, so you can call it. You can call it from a WordPress environment. We're working on integrating that into our LMS here on campus as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And up next, we will have Mike. Mike and Dave, if you do not have a dog, no pressure. So I think it's heightened pressure as we go through the panelists.
Great. I don't have my dog, but I will feature a dog. Let's see. I'll share my screen.
Or your kitty, Mike. Show your cats.
We have cats running around. Too many animals in the house. So I'm not sure I can top that presentation. That's impressive work that Amplify is going on there, but I will share what we're doing at Yale. And I'll share this desktop. So there's lots of AI initiatives going on at Yale, as I'm sure there are at all your universities. So I'm only talking about Clarity, touch on a little bit. So over the last semester and into the summer, our provost office has been doing a lot of thinking around AI, and they came out with a report that basically said Yale should be offering various things to support AI initiatives, including, as you'll see in this statement here, to encourage experimentation and learning, Yale should begin by providing equitable access to a leading multimodal generative AI tool to all members of the Yale community. So this creation of Clarity was in response to that, to give equitable. And what we mean by that is anybody can go and get chatgpt.com. You can get a free account, but you run into limitations. So students who could afford a pro license have an unfair advantage, and that's what they wanted to get around. And I know a lot of our departments were getting requests. I want to buy OpenAI licenses for all of our students. And the departments are saying, we can't afford that. So we were really kind of in a mad dash over the summer to give access to a tool that we could afford for everybody to have access to. And that's what Clarity is attempting to be. Over that summer, at the same time that the provost kind of announced their big initiatives around AI, we launched a new AI website, which is ai.yale.edu, which is general information about AI at Yale. But there's a tools section in particular that highlights some of the available tools, including Clarity, which we have at the top. We, at the same time as a number of universities did, rolled out Copilot with data protection, Microsoft's own chat bot that if you log in with a university Entra ID account, you get extra data protection. And it's a pretty good tool. So we also highlighted that as in addition to some other tools as part of our launch. So for the Yale Clarity platform, we really wanted to address the need for equitable access to generative AI tools. we wanted to provide a platform that is flexible enough to bring in new models and tools as they evolve. Right now, the tool has available one agent. We call it agent. It's not actually doing agentic things that are kind of in the news these days, but that one agent gives you access to GPT-4o, and that's it for the moment, but we're very soon going to have GPT-4o Mini and Claude 3.5 Sonnet available. And more importantly, we'll have infrastructure to support any of these models. We also are very keen to establish an infrastructure for access to LLM APIs with billing and security and performance kind of figured out so that people aren't going it. Right now, people are asking for Azure subscriptions and AWS subscriptions and trying to figure this all out on their own. So we want to have a little bit more formal offerings to help people do things the right way and for us to be able to control it. Just at a very high level, this what we've built, we did not build in-house. So one thing that we didn't have the luxury of having anybody who could focus on building a solutions, and we were really looking for a partner. We actually did some work to build something on our own before we went down this path, and it just wasn't working out very well. So we wanted to find a partner, which we did in the Soliance is the company we're working with, and we've licensed their Foundation LLM product. So the code for Foundation LLM is on GitHub. It's open, but it's not open source in the sense that you do need to license the software to utilize it. So we did go the route of buying a solution rather than developing it in-house. It's all built on Azure, so it's in our Azure instance, and we have complete control over all of the data. It's very much service-oriented architecture. The APIs are running everything. This is a little bit older model. I won't go into the details. I will say for the default agent that we make available, there's GPT-4o, but it's using the OpenAI, Azure OpenAI Assistance API to do the RAG type of work and the code interpreter and the file search. So when we rolled it out, we did have that capability because we were really going after users who were accustomed to using ChatGPT.com. So some of the magical things it's able to do is because of the Assistance API. So that was an important part of our decision-making going forward to kind of replicate that functionality as much as possible. It's been a little bit of a challenge because it's not all very well documented, and there's some strangeness to using Assistance API that you have to work through. And also security has been a huge part of what we're trying to establish, because I think someone mentioned earlier, we told everybody, go out and experiment with API, but don't give it any of our data. So we really wanted to have an environment that would be safe to use with any most levels of data. Just in terms of a roadmap of what we have now and where we're going with it, we went live at the end of August. Just recently, we added image creation. So we also, in addition to GPT-4o, we have DALL-E 3 running behind for image generation. We recently added the ability to upload via OneDrive. So when you click on the upload button for files, you can pull files from your OneDrive, which is especially helpful if you're using a mobile device. We've tried to do some improvements to make the streaming experience more better. It's still not as nice as what people are used to in ChatGPT. ChatGPT starts giving you responses quickly, so we still have a bit of a challenge there. This month, we're hoping to roll out an agent that will give you access to 3.5 Sonnet. We're going to have an agent that does GPT-4o Mini, and in fact, we may make that the default model for performance and sustainability reasons. We're going to chat export so students can share, because it's very locked down. We don't have an ability for people to share their chat conversation in a way that people could pop in, because we're concerned about the access control. But we want students to be able to prove that they did some work in the platform. So we're going to have some kind of automated ability for that to happen. Going down into Q1 of next year, we really want to get to the point where we can have custom chatbot creation. So the goal is that we can have any number of agents and we can have custom agents created there, and as much self-service ability for people to do that as possible is our goal, and also API access And there, right now, you can actually access the tool if you know what you're doing, because it's all API based. You can start calling APIs if you know how to manage your bearer tokens and things. But we don't publicize that widely because we don't have restrictions on the use, and we're afraid that people might abuse that. We want to put those kinds of controls in place. We want to have the ability for people to generate keys to access APIs that can be time limited and controlled in various ways. So that we're starting the work to make that possible on the platform, and hope to have that ready by January, starting January of next year. I think I'm going to skip that. Let me just pop out here and demonstrate. So here's the website I mentioned for AI at Yale, and it talks a lot about the provost work. Here's the tools page that has our link to Clarity, and there's more information here about Clarity if you want to read. We've done some preliminary work with training materials, and we're working with another firm to help with communications around this that will go into greater depth in terms of promoting the tool and AI in general. Here's the Copilot with data protection. We highlighted Adobe Firefly, the Zoom AI companion for, AI work in your meetings, Power BI, all the things, developer tools. We highlight kind of the process people need to follow if they're building solutions. And then we highlight some of the popular no-cost tools that people should be aware of, including ChatGPT. So that's that website. Here's what the portal actually looks like. I don't usually, well, anyway, this is it. Here's a chat. I asked it to chart. I had a CSV with sites, and I said, can you chart the top 20 websites? It gives me this long explanation about it doesn't like the file for whatever reason, but it did generate a chart there that I can view and export. You'll see that because it's using Assistance API, it has access to the code interpreter tool. So if I click this analysis tab, you'll see the actual code that it used to generate that chart. And if I want to copy that out and use it in my own tools and tweak it, I can do that as well. We don't have the cool side by side where you can actually then tweak it. That's cool to see from Amplify. Something maybe we consider. Here's the dog. Okay, it can generate images. So I asked it to generate an image of a bulldog playing football. So it's not real, but it's still kind of cute. I do have a dog, but I don't have a picture. Let's see. You can upload images, and as I'm sure all your other tools can do, it can analyze the images. I uploaded an image of some candy that we had a contest in the office to guess how many candies are in the jar. And it gave me this answer. Even just having this kind of formatting of the formulas and things was a bit of a challenge when we were trying to build this stuff internally. So that's the value of working with a partner who knows what they're doing. So it gave me an answer without using its code generation capabilities. I think it was probably right, but I said, can you calculate it? Use some code to calculate it. And it did here. So I have that code I could copy out. I like to share this tool, this example. I want to solve the New York Times Mini faster than my friends. So these tools are really good at generating code and kind of going back and forth with the tool to get the code exactly as you want it to. If I want to start a new chat, I can start it here. And let's see, can you create a PowerPoint file for a presentation on innovations in staff development for higher ed IT? Let's see what happens. So here's where it's thinking, and this is where people are not happy. They want it to be faster before it starts responding. And it didn't actually generate the file. It's asking me if I want to proceed. I'll say, yes, proceed. You can see it's thinking. It's doing some code work to generate the file. And there, now I can download that presentation. It's probably not very pretty, but where'd it go? There we go. So, and here's where when we talk about agents, that's that agent that I have access to. And in the future, we'll have additional agents, so I could have Claude and other things showing up there. And I will stop sharing my presentation. That's a quick overview. And are there any questions that we should attend to now?
I don't think we have any. Oh, are you using your tool to generate training materials for it?
I'm sure I regularly use these tools to help me start things. So I don't know if others who have done their training, like I just tell people we need this and don't judge them too harshly if they've used AI, but probably.
Mike, this is Miroslav. I ask you this question, and the reason why I ask it is we at Geldon. Now, I'm not in academia. I'm in a manufacturing company. We use transcripts of our Microsoft Teams calls, and based on those transcripts, we produce standard operating procedures documents, which is a form of training materials.
Yeah, I didn't demonstrate it here, but if I had, we could have uploaded files. And initially when we rolled this out with Assistance API, to give you an idea of the Assistance API can handle theoretically 10,000 files. So within a session, a chat session there, I could upload any number of files and ask it to do, you know, summarize or go through the files looking for certain kinds of things and then generate, you know, content, as many of these other tools can do. But we've just had some particular challenges, and I think it's the way that the Assistance API stores files. It does it in a way that those files are accessible in a theoretical kind of hacky kind of way, but they're accessible in a way that we were uncomfortable with from a security perspective, so that we needed to do some other things to maintain role-based access control for the security of our content that has created challenges. So bottom line, what we kind of force people right now to do one file at a time. So if you're going to analyze a bunch of files, you need to kind of do it one at a time in your chat conversation. But nonetheless, you can do that, and it really does a good job of, you know, indexing that content and helping answer questions, deciding, you know, when to pull in other tools to help serve whatever you're asking it to do.
And what's the average cost per user you're seeing?
So I'm not prepared with the numbers to calculate that, but that was similar to what Alan talked about. Like, we're not buying the whatever, I don't know what the per person per month cost is if we went out and bought ChatGPT enterprise licenses for everyone, but what we're spending is a fraction of that. I will say that we invested fairly heavily in GPT-4o PTUs, which are throughput units that guarantee you high quality access to the large language model in Azure. And that's the bulk of our cost. We did a comparison of token. I'm not prepared with the numbers, but it's a fraction of what we would have spent if we had instead bought licenses for ChatGPT Pro. And then the other challenge that you have there, if you make that investment, then do you also then need to go invest in Claude and other things? So the advantage of having this kind of solution built in-house, and I'm not saying everybody should jump and use ours, that there's many options, LibreChat and Amplify's code, that it's good that there's these opportunities to build things in-house and to be able to leverage other technologies without having to be invested in one particular company.
And Dave, take us out.
All right, last but not least, good to see you all again. I think it's been since February that we did this last time. Back in February, I focused more on the responsible use guidelines and terms of service that we put together at the University of Virginia. And so I'm just going to put that link in the chat. You can go explore those things on your own, because not only is there artificial intelligence and all these cool tools that my colleagues have shown, but there's also guidelines, there's standards, policies, and other things that go with it and wrap around it. And so some of those are there for your reference. Last time I talked about UVA Chat Plus, which was a chatbot that we built here at the University of Virginia. We have since deprecated UVA Chat Plus in favor of Copilot. We did some experiments and user surveys and found that there was a slight preference for Copilot. And actually an even more of a preference for the free versions of OpenAI ChatGPT that our students were using, of course. And so we decided to not continue to build our own. So it was an interesting experiment. We certainly learned a lot from it, but we couldn't keep up with Microsoft and Copilot. As I mentioned, we are a Microsoft shop. And so what I did want to go into today was sort of a deep dive on M365 Copilot, which is the AI that's built into the productivity suite. So Teams and Word and Excel and those things that you use every day. So for those of you who are Microsoft shops, I think you might find this interesting. And let me just pull up my slide deck here. Right. Oops, I think I share my whole desktop. Hang on a second. There we go. Okay. So one of the things that you've heard here today, and one of the concerns that a lot of higher ed institutions have are costs. And so how much will these things cost us to run? There are some advantages, as Mike just described, building your own, it can be cheaper. I think we found that with UVA Chat Plus. Copilot, of course, comes included in the Microsoft fees you're already paying. Microsoft 365 Copilot, however, is an add-on to the Microsoft licensing. And so one of the questions we had was, is it worth the $30 per user per month to have M365 Copilot? And if it is, how might we invest in that at an institutional level? We had a couple other questions, and so we wanted to do a pilot. A couple other questions we had were, do we have the right technical requirements or prerequisites to run this? Meaning, do we have the right things on our laptops and our endpoint devices to make this work? When we go live, what kind of training will we need for users? And what other best practices for prompting and other things do we need for our users as we go forward? So we stood up a pilot. We actually worked with a third-party vendor to do the pilot and help us with some of the data. We had 210 participants in the pilot from 8 different schools and units. We had 4 schools and 4 units, actually. We did a 4-week pilot, and we had hoped to save about 60 minutes per person per day during the pilot. Just a quick overview, I'm not going to go into detail here, but we did 4 weeks. We did have a couple of training sessions up front that we did with our pilot users, a prompt engineering session, a general session on Copilot. And then we did one where we sort of dug into use cases that our users might have. So getting them thinking about how they might use this kind of technology. And then we did some office hours and then put together a survey at the end. We had pretty good participation. The big number here is the one on the left. During the pilot, 93% of those 210 users used Copilot at least once. And then the other numbers here are just in terms of how they attended the various training sessions. So we'll go into detail there. What we observed with our pilot is that just over half used this technology daily, which is a pretty good amount. 80% claim to have saved time, most of those in the sort of 15 to 30 minute territory. So as an example, when you saw Mike try and create a PowerPoint, slide deck, M365 Copilot can do similar things to that. And so that might be something that would be a time savings for you. 72% of the participants would recommend it to a colleague, but only, I would say, 54% were overall satisfied with their M365 Copilot experience. So I find that that's an interesting difference between recommendation and overall satisfaction. You would think those numbers, I would think those numbers would be a little bit closer to each other. But again, trying to get at, is this investment worth it? You know, I don't know, maybe, right, at this point in terms of percentages of overall satisfaction. As I mentioned, this is the AI that's built into your productivity suite. In terms of use for these Copilot AI bots, Outlook, Teams, and Word definitely top the list of the items in the productivity suite where users used Copilot. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the use cases. Most of the use cases follow just general AI type use cases. Summarize something for me, create something for me, help me edit it. So a lot of ideation here, a lot of catching up on emails and other things, or maybe I've got a really long document, help me summarize that. So these are the use cases, and these are the way we saw people saving time. Since we're all friends here and with Microsoft's not in the room, let's talk about what didn't work in our pilot. Again, when you're thinking about an investment. Now, I should also say this was June and July of 2024. There's more coming, and it's getting better. But at the time, it really didn't handle complex work very well. So if it was a multi-step kind of process that you were going through to get an answer through the generative AI, it really didn't do very well. It kind of got frustrating for users. Some of this, to be fair, might have been our ability to prompt well, which is a skill that we're all learning now. Sometimes we found that it wasn't helping, it wasn't good at certain things. Again, at the time, particularly Excel, we wanted to have it work really well with Excel. It held so much promise. None of us like to remember the formulas in Excel. And so we found, though, that it was kind of lacking in Excel at the time. And then lastly, these are just people limitation. People didn't have time to play around with it. And then lastly, I think people thought it was too early. So it was nascent technology. It is nascent technology, and maybe it didn't work quite as well compared to some other AI that we had experienced, like OpenAI ChatGPT. This is my favorite slide. My favorite piece of data. Did Copilot help? And we had a couple of different categories here on whether it helped or not. I would say we lean towards the yes, it was helpful, but it's also interesting to see that it wasn't helpful for others. And so we sort of came away with like a meh, like it's okay. And depending on what you're trying to do, you might find it helpful. Should you invest the money in this at $30 per user per month? Still a question, I think, based on our pilot. Oh, and I got to the dog too quickly. And this is Mr. Banks. This is our rescue beagle. He is in the house somewhere, but he's probably sleeping. Couple other things I wanted to mention. For those of you who are struggling with cost, one of the things that we did for this particular service is we've made it cost recovery. And so if you have the ability to do cost recovery things, that can be helpful in your AI journey. We were given no money to do this. And so you can request this through us. Request through ServiceNow, it's automated. It happens automatically once you give us your budget code. And so we charge once a year at renewal time for M365. We had 210 Copilot pilot users. I think we're up to just over 300 users now since that time. The last thing I will mention is there is a wave 2 for M365 Copilot, and there are some great updates that are coming with that. So I'll put that in the chat as well if you want to take a look at that. So yeah, I hope you found that helpful, particularly if you're a Microsoft shop. Also, if you're thinking about how you might cost recover for some of these things, I think just wanted to highlight there's an opportunity to do that as well. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our panelists. Now we'll open it up to general questions. I can see we already have one in the chat from David. For all of those presenting, who or which area would you say is the owner of AI at your institution? Is it kind of CIO versus IT versus learning and teaching, or something else?
I don't mind starting. At Yale, like the service that the Clarity is kind of owned within IT. It's my service, but there's tons of partnership, and I think you have to partner across the campus. So our teaching and learning, we have the Porvu teaching and learning. They're very much involved, like every daily 8:30 stand up with them. Our provost office is very involved, who's over the Porvu. Our libraries are involved. The research groups, everybody's involved, and it's kind of hard to manage because everybody wants to be involved. But I think it is important to get everybody involved. We certainly don't. We try to be careful, for example, not to own Copilot, although we do a lot of work to kind of explain the options on our website, and so we did take ownership of that on my team, but we're careful not to answer all the questions about these services because there's other areas that own those services. So yeah, I don't think you could do it any other way because AI is just like everywhere, and everybody needs to be thinking about it. I don't know, Alan, I think you were going to chime in.
Yeah, I think a similar approach here at Vanderbilt too. It really helped. We had a chancellor that was all in on it, and I think when he named Dr. Wyatt as the senior advisor to the chancellor for generative AI, and one of the calls that he gave Dr. Wyatt was to come up with a strategy for the whole university. And so I think having a chancellor that really kind of said, "Hey, this is important. We need to all get together on this." And drive that initiative. It helped. He's a firm believer in radical collaboration, as he calls it. And so I think, to be able to pull from the academic side, from the administrative side to create a solution has been great. And similarly, we have a technical product. I'm out of VUIT. We have a research component that comes out of the academic side. And then we have a teaching and learning, component as well. And we all collaborate together to try and work across the university as well.
Yeah, I think most. I was at a presentation where the CIOs did a survey recently, and I think most institutions they have one person that was dedicated in their position to be AI, or between 1 and 3 is the maximum. And what happens is this person has a lot of responsibilities to do a lot of different things. However, that doesn't mean that this person is doing everything AI in the institution. This person is focusing on specific things, especially API access and training and stuff like that. At Cornell, we have an AI advisory council that represents pedagogy, research, and administration. And each of these have their own subcommittees. And this is where the AI guidance at the highest level is connecting. And this is being formed at Cornell. We already started, and we have meeting schedules coming up. So that's where you get kind of the different components of your institutions and different teams. But yeah, it's definitely touching everything, and having that AI advisory council will help aligning all the efforts.
I would say from a Harvard perspective, we have basically kind of an advisory group at the top that sort of laid out the mission and kind of the intent or purpose. And then since then, Harvard has a bunch of working groups, one in teaching and learning group. There's one in AI research and scholarship, and there's also one in operations as well. So each of those working groups sort of lay out the plan for their different sections. But I will say, at least for Hewitt, then we do a lot of sort of the offering of the services. So like we have ChatGPT EDU licenses for students. We have the sandbox as well, similar to what others the panelists have talked about as well. So we have a lot of different working groups sort of working on where Harvard can collaborate and strive to do better. So.
Yeah, at UVA, we have AI leadership, teaching and learning, administrative, and research. So we have leadership there. We don't have at sort of the top level a leadership and direction, which is something we're missing and we know, and we're having conversations about. In terms of where I am, I'm in central IT. So from my perspective, I'm looking to find the services that I can provide that provide the most good for everyone at the university. But there are certainly, as others have mentioned, there are lots of folks working on AI in different schools with different research, and that's all fine as well. We do probably need to start to pull some of this together, though.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, please, Mike. Yes.
The cost recovery mentioned, so like one thing that we haven't been doing with the agent that I demonstrated in Clarity, that's open to every Yale faculty, staff, and student. So it's open to, I don't know, a ridiculous number. And we've had about 4,200 unique users so far. But we're not charging for it. And we want to get to a point where we can do billing in certain circumstances. We haven't worked out exactly when that will happen or not, but I wanted to ask Alan, like I saw you had GPT-4o at the same time that Claude was giving you an answer. And I could imagine like everybody would want to see all these tools working at the same time, but then, this all starts to add up. Have you contemplated doing charge in some certain situations, or is it all open?
Yeah, so actually, we originally wrote it for cost recovery. So every API call is calculated. We calculate the token cost against every model, and then that's all written to a Dynamo table, and we report against it. What we found was, and the discussion with finance here on campus was that because the recovery was so low from a cost perspective per user, that it wasn't worth the time to capture a $1 charge. And so the effort to go across and calculate and capture, to create a chargeback for $1 for 4,000 users at scale just didn't make sense. And so that's why we're running it open. And then they're just for now at least, it is being covered at the institutional level for general usage. We do offer an API. We do create API keys. You can time bound and kind of all that stuff. If you're doing research work against an API, we do charge back for that.
And a related question that we're getting interest from people who are concerned about sustainability of AI efforts in general. Has anybody else been hearing like you shouldn't encourage too much consumption of this? What's the impact for the environment of making these things so freely available?
I think one of the biggest challenges for me has been, how do I close the loop right now, providing access, providing training? How do I close the loop about value or impact? I know when people are using the AI tools, they are definitely benefiting, but that's the most I have, is like they're using it, thus they're benefiting from AI. Versus if you're buying seats, it's a lot harder to justify because you give people seats and they might not use it. They might use it once a week. Where a token-based system, that at least you're paying when they're using it, and you're just assuming that they're using it for something that's adding value, which is probably the case. But there are some instances where people are really doing very creative things, very important things with it, use cases that are probably saving a lot of time or maybe increasing the our goal for the mission. It's been hard for me to close the loop and collect these use cases. The prompt library is one effort. If people actually start to adding their use cases, then we could look at these and kind of try to analyze it using AI and generate what we think the impact is. However, it's been really hard to follow these loose ends everywhere where people are using AI now, but I'm not sure for what, or what did it change in their life, and how can I report back to the leadership and say, this is what AI has done in 2024. It's been really, really challenging to do that.
And we did get a question for everyone in the chat as well regarding security. Do you promote your tools as being safe and ready to use with all types of data, regardless of risk classification? for example, HIPAA and FERPA data? Would that be clear to use with your tools?
So I mentioned earlier we have guidelines in terms of service, and I put that link in the chat. So no, we have 4 levels of data as well: public, non-public, sensitive, and highly sensitive. We do not allow highly sensitive data in the AI tools that we have created, but sensitive data, which would include FERPA, is okay.
I think we're in a similar basket. We have 4 levels as well. For us, we're up to level 3. We're certified for that through our internal. We went through the same internal audit that we use for any application that's onboarded here at Vanderbilt. And that did require us going back to retrofit the application to be more compliant, to make sure we were using secure endpoints on everything, making sure that that everything met we're using the NIST framework here internally. So we turned that conformance pack on within AWS. And then as things were non-compliant, we corrected that compliance and to get that certification.
And at Yale, we've been building with the intent of being able to use any data. And it is, there are 3 classifications. We have low, moderate, and high. But then there's all kinds of external obligations, including FERPA and HIPAA and Social Security numbers. And it's certified for FERPA, which for us is moderate risk data. We were working towards HIPAA certification. The Assistance API is in preview and has been for a long time in Azure. So it's not included in a business associates agreement with Microsoft. So, which was actually a surprise to us. We didn't realize that until kind of late. We have a lot of people on our medical community, and I used to work in schools of nursing. So I'd always get annoyed when central IT would deploy all these services and say, oh, by the way, on the medical campus, you can't use it. So it's been our goal to make that available. They also have concerns about, there's lots of complexity. So we discourage people from using PHI, but otherwise we do certify it for high risk data.
I would say from Harvard's end, I can at least speak to what we're doing with Watson. I know generally with the sandbox, I believe right now it's level 3 from Harvard's end. And so in terms of what we're doing, especially at the service desk, we're actually trying to onboard the registrar's office over at our Faculty of Arts and Sciences to utilize this IBM Watson service. And you can imagine a lot of the student data you have to worry about with that. So we're actually right now in talks with IBM to see how we can get using IBM's models to the point where we can use that data and not have to worry about the security concerns of having that data being used by our Watson X assistant. One other thing I'd also want to quickly jump back to was thinking about sustainability. Harvard actually just had an all staff meeting recently. One of our focuses this year is actually working on the impact of what using these AI models has on our environment generally. And one of our members on that team had reported to us that, just to some insight here, the GPT-4, whenever you use one 100-word email, for example, as a query, that is the equivalency of 1 500-milliliter bottle of water and 7 charges of an iPhone. So this is something that Harvard's also really focusing on this year, especially, is seeing what the environmental impact of using all these AI models are, and seeing where we can sort of keep sustainability in mind as we go forward. So.
Yeah, in our platform, we expose token counts, which just confuses people, and they're like, what is this? And so I describe it as kind of basically the cost of your prompts. Maybe we should change it to charges of an iPhone.
And just wanted to call out, not so much a question, but a great comment in the chat as far as someone's son is a student and he works with many interns, and the message to them is always never use Gen AI to study, always use Gen AI to work. You attend a college to develop your brain, you work to meet deadlines, different objectives, drive different usage of the same tool. So that's a good pieces of advice. What other questions do folks have? I'll throw out a question for our panelists to wrap up with, but just maybe one kind of final lesson learned or advice you would give to anybody from another university who is wanting to go down a similar path. We can start with, we'll go backwards this time. Dave.
Yeah, I think the thing we've learned is, pilots, proof of concept, POVs, whatever you call these things, right? So experimenting. You may not know today what you're going to be using these tools for and this technology for, but don't sit back and wait. You want to be in the conversation and ready when it comes to you.
Thank you. Alan, I can see you're off mute.
Yeah, sure. I'd say in a similar vein, just do something. I think the longer you wait, the further behind you risk falling. It's a really fast moving field and it can be scary for sure. But I think the benefits certainly outweigh the risks. And especially if you're measured in your approach. I think the other piece of it is to collaborate like that. That's what's part of what's made us be able to move so fast was, working with a computer science professor that like, this is what he does, this is what he teaches. And to be able to pull in, a research engineer from his team. I think that piece of radical collaboration within VUIT and then across the education side, and, being able to do this together has really accelerated our development cycle.
Awesome, thank you. Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say, being thoughtful about reaching out and including the right people as well. So there's, it's being transparent, being open, being honest about what you're creating and what your limitations are. Like I always try to be honest that we're trying to stay keeping pace with ChatGPT because we want to give you similar kind of functionality, but we don't have the kind of resources that ChatGPT or OpenAI has to develop that tool. And I'm very frank about that. And I'm not hesitant to tell people, oh, we don't have internet search, by the way. Like that's actually a hard thing to integrate into a tool. And a lot of these other tools just have it and people take it for granted. And so if you need that, go out there, do that, but be careful with the data that you're putting out there. But being honest and reaching out, making sure that you're connecting with the right people. At every stand-up meeting that I have in the morning, I look ahead to my calendar and I'm like, did we invite the right people to this meeting? Who are we leaving out? So just being sure that you're connecting with people on campus is the takeaway I would have you take.
Thank you. AM.
Yes, so we're at the higher ed, we're not in the software business. So we really always, when it comes to buy versus build, our choice should always be buy, or that's what we gravitate towards. So, but I think when we do that, we kind of stifle innovation and we have less opportunity to be creators and innovate and solve problems. And I think AI is giving us this opportunity because vendors are not ready. And there's this huge gap that we finally have like this opportunity to innovate and create. And I think we want to enjoy it while it lasts until these offerings and vendors mature. So I encourage everybody to take this opportunity and do it. It also means that you're going to shape the product's offering. So like when you build something, even though it's not going to scale and grow to become like a big company, vendors are paying attention and they're going to learn from what you're building. So you kind of have a voice right now to shape what these products should look like for the higher ed, because we're usually smaller markets. So, but when we prototype and solution and innovate, we could kind of inspire the vendors to build something that works for us too, not just the big enterprises.
I want to jump on one thing related to that I didn't mention in our tool. Is we can't really keep pace with ChatGPT except when it comes to digital accessibility, since this is my other hat. So we have a captive vendor who's working with us, so we can ask them to actually fix the accessibility of our tool, which they do for us. So anyway, just throw that out there. It's hard to get companies like ChatGPT to make their interfaces accessible to people with disabilities.
I want to tag onto that too. I know, I mean, we are innovating really quickly here. And I do think if there's enough institutions that can get together in the open source community, especially if they're all higher ed or have a common, kind of common goal, I do think we can keep pace. I do think we can keep an open source tool that's available for people to use that is cost effective, so we don't get, we don't all get pulled into the commercial model later on in life. So we're going to try to do that here. I know LibreChat's out there. I know there's several, but that's kind of our goal here, is to build community around it and support each other. And we hope that some of you will come along with us.
And Greg.
I just want to say, I think this is a very common theme, but also very much like a fail forward. Definitely take the time. Ours is all about, like, even if it doesn't work, we keep trying it, we keep going. It's taken us. We started with the Watson in 2020, so we're going on 5 years into this. So we've learned a lot through our failures along the way with getting Watson set up. One other point I mentioned too, and seconded on what Aham said earlier about having an impact on vendors. Because of what we're doing with Watson, IBM, especially our sales team, is very interested in what we're doing, and they ask us to come to their meetings and tell us about how we're utilizing their platform. So I think, and I know, as Alan said, having an open source option is a really good idea as well. But definitely at this point, especially, universities can definitely have an impact on what vendors do and how they sell their products to us. So.
Wonderful. So any other final thoughts or questions from our audience before we close things out? All right, well, not sure if folks can see me, but he just jumped off. There's Augie. So we're ending with the dog. But thank you, everyone. Thank you again to our panelists. We will be sharing out the recording because we share it publicly. We do partner with a vendor for closed captioning to ensure that the closed captions are actually ADA compliant. So you won't get it right away, but probably by pretty soon, hopefully next week, we'll be able to get that sent out. And I did take down all of the links that our panelists shared, so we will also share those out with folks in case anybody missed that from the chat. But I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, regardless. I know it's some mornings, some evenings, some afternoons. So I hope all are well, and thank you again for your participation.
Thanks, everybody.